Hello everyone, this is The Question, and this is going to be my reading log, and I'm going to combine 2 months, so I'm going to do July and August since I haven't done one in a while. Fellow manga tuber Profitaku had kind of called out all the other manga tubers saying that there's been a lot of haul videos, but no one's really doing reading logs anymore. And so I know I haven't done one. I think the last one I did maybe was April, so I figured I really do want to start doing them again. It's I'm not great at it. I'm definitely a lot more comfortable doing haul type stuff and other types of videos, whereas kind of explaining why I like something I'm not great at. If you do ever want to know what I'm reading, I always kind of score it and log it in Goodreads, so you can follow me on Goodreads. I'm also The Question there if you want to see what I'm reading each month. I generally try to read 1 to 2 volumes a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, but usually about 1 to 2 volumes. So, and like I said, I always put them on Goodreads. Another thing that I'm going to do is when I do this reading log and I talk about what I read, I'm going to start from the stuff. Instead of going from what I read starting in July all the way through August, I'm gonna list them here by what I enjoyed the most. So I'm gonna start with the stuff that I really enjoyed and then go down to the stuff that I didn't enjoy. There's gonna be a few things that I have in this reading log that I actually have already gotten rid of. I do unhaul manga, if there's something that I don't care for, there's a couple series or a series that I'm just not really getting that into that much, I'll go ahead and pass it along. A good example of that is I had all 15 volumes of Ancient Magus Bride. I had a few of the side spin-off volumes, and I also had some of like the official guidebooks that I had for the series. And I really liked the series for like the first half of it, and then I kind of fell off it pretty hard. It was okay, nothing, I didn't hate it or anything, just didn't really grab me, and I didn't really have any interest in reading the side stories, so I sold off everything Ancient Magus Bride I have. So that's an example of, if I'm not really caring for something too much, I'll go ahead and get rid of it. So let's get right into the reading log. If you have any questions afterwards, go ahead and let me know. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the reading log. Like I mentioned, I'm going to start with the stuff I enjoyed the most all the way down to the stuff I enjoyed the least. And because it's 2 months worth of stuff, I'm going to go through these pretty fast. So I'm not going to get into plot points, really detailed thoughts about stuff. I'm just going to give quick opinions of stuff and move on to the next book. So starting off, we have the best thing I read this month, and it continues to be these Berserk deluxe editions, and this was volume 11. So I read through volume 11. I continue to love this series. I'm really surprised how much I've enjoyed this series. I had it pictured in my head as kind of a generic, hard action fantasy series, and this has a lot more great characters and just fantastic artwork, a lot more than I originally expected. So I really love this series. I really love these deluxe editions, and I know a lot of people prefer kind of the very first arcs where it kind of focused on Guts and Griffith. But my favorite character in this whole series so far has been, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Shirky has actually been the young girl mage. She's easily been my favorite character in the whole series, and I really enjoy when it focuses on her. So definitely recommend this series. These deluxe editions are amazing. I really hope Dark Horse announces that they're going to release some more series in this, especially since right now we don't have too many more Blade of the Immortals to come. Hellsing is over with, and we probably won't have more than a few more Berserks. So really hoping they announce something to follow up this with. But yeah, love Berserk. Can't recommend this enough. Next up, we have Talk to My Back by Yamada Murasaki. I think this might be the first release we've gotten of her work in English, and this is a newer volume that just came out from Drawn and Quarterly, and I love this book. This was originally written in the 80s, and the story, it has to do with a housewife and kind of the malaise that she feels. She has a husband that is always at work, not very attentive, expects her to basically be his maid when she comes home, or when he comes home. And so it's kind of just a slice of life focusing on her day-to-day and kind of her thoughts and how she wants to do something more than just be a housewife. So this is a really great series. I'm glad that we're getting stuff like this in English, drawn in quarterly. There's great releases, really nice artwork, not a lot of detailed backgrounds, but very, very nice storytelling. And one of my favorite things, like I've mentioned in some past videos, I really love when they do these articles in the back. Kind of, this one here is about her in particular, but it's also about a lot of early female mangaka creators in general. So it actually put me onto some books in here that I didn't know that got released in English previously. So that was great. I added some stuff onto my wish list that I didn't know about. And so yeah, if you like kind of slice of life and stuff that's, you know, kind of more not action, just kind of more pure storytelling, this is a great book. I highly recommend it. Talk to my back. And next up we have Pink by Kyoko Okazaki. This is by the same mangaka of Helter Skelter, a book which has quite a bit higher reviews than this one does. This one has very mixed reviews, but I actually enjoyed this one a lot more. This very, you know, the art style is the same, but this one had a little more unique kind of story that I hadn't seen before, and also some comedy that I really enjoyed. So I'm not going to show too much of the inside. It's a really nice release by Vertical. This is an 18+ book, and the basic story, it's about a call girl who has a pet crocodile, and so it's basically her life kind of dealing with stuff at work, dealing with her family, and things like that. So if you've read Helter Skelter, let's see if I can get some pages that are not inappropriate, but yeah, so like this one here, it's got a very unique art style. This is not an art style that you see in a lot of manga, but I really enjoy, I just really enjoyed the story. It's a nice done in one, very interesting and very unique story. Highly recommend Pink. Next up, we have all 5 volumes of Blank Canvas, My So-Called Artist Journey. This is by Akiko Higashimura. This is the same creator as Princess Jellyfish, and this is an autobiographical manga, basically talking about her wanting to become a mangaka and kind of going through art school. So before she even gets to art school and college, it kind of talks about her doing art in high school, and the main plot point of this whole series is her relationship with her sensei, who is not part of he's kind of a separate school that she goes to, who kind of trains her on, you know, on art. And he's more into fine art, whereas she more wants to do manga stuff, but she's too shy to tell him about it. So I'm not gonna spoil where this story goes, because this is a very emotional series and I really enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed Princess Jellyfish, you know, this is a great kind of background into the creator and how she got her start. And it's very honest. You don't get a lot of autobiographical manga that's very honest about her faults. It kind of, she spends a lot of time in this series talking about her mistakes and kind of things that she regrets in life, kind of slacking off a lot when she could have really focused down and gotten started a lot earlier if she would have done that. So yeah, really love this series. Probably one of my favorite autobiographical manga that I've read, and it is a short 5-volume series. These volumes are pretty easy to find, and there's the 5th volume. So yeah, go ahead and check this one out. Okay, so next up we have Slam Dunk. I read through all 31 volumes of Slam Dunk in this time period, and this was my first series by this creator, and I knew this was going to be my starting one. I really love basketball. I play basketball. I watched NBA all the time, and so this was going to be the sports manga that I assumed that I would like the most, and it did not disappoint. The first few volumes, it does take a few volumes for me to really kind of get the feel of the way that this story goes. It was a little more from the beginning, a little more slapsticky, a little more comedy and kind of goofy than I kind of was expecting. But once I got a feel for how the story was going to go, I definitely really got into it. And by like, you know, the 4th or 5th volume, I was really hooked, and I was reading like 3 of these at a time. three in a day, especially once I started getting towards the end. So I really can't recommend this one enough. This is a fantastic sports manga, really great artwork. When I was reading it, there's like basketball games that go on in here where like one game will last like 5 or 6 volumes, where it'll be like a whole volume will focus on like 5 minutes of a basketball game. And when I was very first starting to read this, I was like, man, he's really dragging this out. But once you've kind of gotten into it and you really get a feel for how the story is going, it just feels, you can kind of understand why it's done that way. Great character development in this series, some really great characters, especially focused on the main team here. They kind of start adding a bunch of other teams, and sometimes it's kind of hard to remember which player from which team is which. But otherwise, just a really great series. I can't recommend this enough. It was written in the 90s. I was expecting it to feel more dated than it does, other than basketball being played quite a bit differently now than it was in the 90s. There's a lot more, in this series, it's kind of an oddity that someone's shooting 3-pointers, where now like everybody shoots 3-pointers. This one's the basketball in this is way more focused on underneath the basket type stuff. But yeah, otherwise, great series. Glad I own this. I'm definitely hanging on to this series, and yeah, definitely recommend all 31 volumes of Slam Dunk. I know it's out of print. Hopefully, more of the volumes come back in print and more people can read this, because it's just a really great sports series. Okay, so next up we have Aria the Masterpiece. I read through all 7 volumes of this, and I really love this series. I knew nothing about this when I originally pre-ordered this. I pre-ordered this once Right Stuff had been long out of print, and Right Stuff and Tokyo Pop had worked out a thing where they were going to do one last print run of this, and I really wanted to support that because I know a lot of people really were excited about this series getting reprinted. So I wanted to support that even if I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it, and I'm glad I did because I really, really enjoyed this. The back of the book says that this is a science fiction series. I mean, the world is science fiction, but this is way more slice of life. So if you don't care for slice of life stories with pretty much zero action, then this is not going to be for you. But for me, it was right up my alley. I really, obviously I don't want every series to be like this, but I really enjoyed a series that just kind of focused on characters, the world, and friendship, which is pretty much the main premise of this whole series. There's pretty much zero conflict. There's zero action, and you see we got some color pages, and there's basically zero romance. So there's not really any will they, won't they, any, romantic issues. There's no sort of life or death issues. It's just a really chill, enjoyable series, and I highly recommend it if that sounds like something you're going to enjoy. The artwork's great, and it's 7 volumes. I know already some of them are out of print, but if you like slice of life, I can't recommend this one highly enough. Okay, and next up, I read through all 5 of the Rose of Versailles hardcovers from Ryoko Akita. These are really nice hardcover releases by Udon. Really great quality. I can't recommend. This is like top tier. This is like deluxe edition of Dark Horse kind of quality level. These books are a little smaller than those deluxe editions, but otherwise great presentation. The paper quality is great. Has a lot of supplemental material. The first 4 volumes are basically the main Rose of Versailles story, and then the back half of volume 4 and all of book 5 are basically side stories that were done afterwards. So book 5 is probably my least favorite. It's a lot of more comedic side stories, whereas the first 4 volumes are more romance, historical fiction. You get some action, and it kind of follows, the whole story follows, besides Marie Antoinette, who is a kind of character off to the side a little bit. The main character in this book is Oscar, one of my favorite characters in manga. I really enjoy her as a character. She is a young noblewoman who is basically raised as a son by her father. So she kind of dresses like a man and wants to be a soldier, but at the same time, she is not nowhere in this book is she ever mentioned as like a trans character. She basically, just wants to be able to be a soldier and fight. but she, definitely still considers herself a woman and says that when people ask her about it. So really beautiful artwork. As you can see, really great eyes. The eyes are always sparkly, a very kind of 70s romance. There's a lot of color pages in here. The only thing I had an issue with the sparkly eyes is sometimes I would get confused on which character it was, because I was expecting it to be one character with sparkly eyes, but it would be someone else. But yeah, just a really great series. It's got a lot of extra cover illustrations and stuff that was in the original magazines. These first four hardcovers entail the whole entire Rose of Versailles series, and then the back half of the fourth hardcover is a side story, and then all of volume 5 is basically side stories. The volume 5 hardcover I liked the least of all of these. It's a little more comedic. It's kind of goofy, more in between kind of little detective stories with a little kid that I didn't enjoy quite as much as the main story. But otherwise, highly recommended. If you like romance, historical fiction, definitely check out Rose of Versailles. Okay, so next I read through another autobiographical manga, and this is What is Obscenity by Roku Dinashiko. This is a creator that I don't think has had anything else released in English. This is a, like I said, autobiographical manga about her basically being arrested for making artwork of her vagina. So she 3D prints stuff, does manga, all using her vagina as a character in her stories. And it's basically showing kind of her taking back the kind of, in Japan, there's lots of depictions of penises. So they have like penis festivals, but anytime you use a vagina, it's basically thought to be gross and they ban it. They don't let you show anything like that. And so this whole story is basically her fighting against that and kind of showing the kind of hypocrisy going on in Japan about showing vaginas compared to penises. So very interesting, lots of stuff I didn't know about. It was a story I didn't know about, and this is a really nice release. It's by Koyama Press. This is the only thing I have by them. It is, like I said, it shows her, it basically has a story about her being arrested and kind of going through that, but there's not really anything inappropriate in it. It's just kind of stuff that's going on in Japan. So highly recommend this if you're looking for a good autobiographical series. Long out of print, so this is going to be kind of hard to find, but if you do find it, I highly recommend grabbing it. Next, we have the newest Junji Ito release that came out, and that is the Liminal Zone. This is another really nice hardcover release by Viz. It has a really nice dust jacket. Really love the artwork on here. What destiny awaits them after the whaling. So I know a lot of people are very mixed. I definitely hear a lot of people way more negative to Junji Ito than I used to. He is still one of my top 3 creators. I have not disliked anything I've read by him. I've read literally every book and release that he's released in English, and I have at least liked to loved every single one of them. Even when the stories sometimes aren't the best, the artwork is still amazing, and I've always really enjoyed it. So as long as they keep releasing his work, I'm gonna keep picking it up. And this was another one that I enjoyed, and it wasn't my favorite one of his books, but I found it to be a very interesting story. Artwork great. You kind of know what you're getting with Junji Ito. This is not a short story collection. This is actually one long story. So a lot of his releases recently have been more short story collections. So this is definitely a more a complete story in a book, but it's fairly thick. And if you're into Junji Ito, then pick this up. Okay, and this next stack is going to be a bunch of volume 1s that I gave 4 stars to on Goodreads. With series that I'm interested in, if I know nothing really about them, I'll go ahead and start pre-ordering them. I'll read the first volume. If I enjoy it, if it's something that looks enjoyable, I'll continue it. If I really dislike it, then I'll go ahead and stop. But all these ones here, I'm not going to go too much into each one individually. I gave 4 stars to. I really enjoyed them. I'm looking forward to where they're going to go. And so we have Country Without Humans. The first 2 volumes are out, I think, now. And this is a really interesting story. I enjoyed this one about a world of robots where there's one human, and she's trying to find where the other humans are. We have a Box of Light. When I originally pre-ordered this, I thought this was a one-shot, but this is a volume 1. And this is just a very weird story about a convenience store at the crossroads between life and death. We've got this weird looking, one-eyed cat looking creature. Just a very weird story. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. I read Catch These Hands Volume 1. This is a cute Yuri series. This is about two kind of delinquent high school girls who were always fighting with each other. They were like rival gangs, and now they're kind of starting to get into a relationship. So it's just kind of a cute romance series. I read this first volume and enjoyed it, and I'll definitely pick up more. I read volume 1 of The Case Files of Jeweler Richard. I think this was originally a light novel series, but this is the manga adaptation, and this is just kind of like Catch These Hands. This is a cute BL series about a jeweler who takes on an apprentice to work in his shop, and it's just a kind of mystery story, but you know, kind of a cute, nothing too disturbing or gross or violent in this. This is more just kind of a very interesting story about a jeweler in his shop. And then lastly, I read volume 1 of The Duke of Death and His Maid. And again, just another series that definitely hooked me enough to want to read more. I really loved the little paragraph from the creator at the back. This kind of is a great description of the story. And it says, "Nice to meet you. This story is a little bit funny, a little bit pervy, and a little bit true love. I'm going to do my best with it." And that is a great description of this series. And I really love that paragraph, and I'm definitely going to continue to read this. Okay, and this next stack is kind of the last bit of the stuff that I gave 4 stars to on Goodreads. And these are a bunch of more one-shot related volumes. So we have Farewell to My Altar. This is a short story collection by Mio Nakatani, who also does Bloom Into You and a lot of other Yuri Girls Love series. I haven't read anything by her before, so this was the first thing that I read, and I really enjoyed the short story collection. The main story, Farewell to My Altar, was definitely the best of the stories. Some of the other stuff is some of her really older work, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading more stuff by her. I've been slowly collecting Bloom Into You, but I do not have enough to start reading. That was a good one. I read Our Dining Table. This is another really cute BL series. It's about these two are brothers, and then they meet this guy and they end up kind of becoming their own family. Just a really cute series revolving around cooking, and yeah, just a really nice one-shot. Highly recommend this. And next we have Caterpillar Girl and Bad Texture Boy. This is a really weird romance series about a girl and guy. The girl tells the guy that she has a crush, or that she likes him, and because he thinks that she's way out of his league and she doesn't really like him, he tells her no, and she kind of turns into like this weird caterpillar monster creature, and he ends up taking care of her, and just very weird. I'm not going to go too much more into it than that. Other than that, it's a very weird series, one shot, but I really enjoyed it. I found it, you know, it kept my interest the whole way through, and if you like weird stories, I definitely recommend this one. Then we have Fukushima Devilfish. This is a breakdown press release. As you can see here, really nice cover, bright green and pink and yellow. The first few stories are about people working in a power plant, and those stories were definitely the most interesting of this series. I probably would have, if it was all the stories were focused on that, I probably would have given this a little bit of a higher score. But basically the back half is all stories related to like yokai and monsters and stuff like that. And I didn't enjoy those as much. I really kind of enjoyed the Fukushima stories, but like a lot of these breakdown press releases, I really like the blue colored ink that they used for it. Some really nice artwork in here. And one of my favorite things, again, these really nice articles kind of going into some backstory with the creators, some interviews. Just a really nice release of Fukushima Devilfish. And then the last of these 4-star books, I read a manhwa, and this is Uma's Table. And this one is another drawn and quarterly release, really nice release, and it's basically about another manga or manhwa about has a lot to do with food, but it also has a lot to do with family. So it's about a guy and his wife and his child basically trying to live their own life, but then he's also constantly, because of his issues with his mother and father, he's constantly having to basically kind of bridge these two parts of himself, his kind of young self and his adult self. And just a really nice story. I really enjoyed it. It's not, you know, it's nothing amazing, but I really like the artwork. I think the creator has very unique artwork. You don't see a lot of it. It's kind of like these cat kind of monster creatures is what the characters are. But yeah, I definitely recommend this, and that was Uma's Table. Okay, so now we're on to the stuff I rated 3 stars at Goodreads. And so we've got some volume 1s here. We have Blue Lock Volume 1. This one I found to be, it was okay. It was interesting. It's kind of a Death Games take on the sports manga. I know a lot of people really love this one. I didn't really find it anything special. I found it kind of generic, but I'll definitely check out the next volume. I think this is a shorter series, so I'm definitely, you know, able to see where it goes. I don't think the artwork is really anything great. But yeah, so I read Blue Lock 1. Kind of the same feelings I have for Colorless Volume 1. This one here I actually don't know if I'm going to continue with. I thought it was okay. Wasn't really that excited about it. It's basically, like it says here, it's about a world stripped of color. All the humans kind of got mutated, and so it's kind of a story about this one girl who wasn't mutated and kind of her trying to figure out what's going on. Like I said, it was okay. It just, I mean, I'll probably go ahead and not pick up anymore, and then if I end up hearing that it gets fantastic later on, then I'll maybe pick up more volumes. I read through Death Note short stories. I love Death Note. It's one of my favorite series, one of my series that really got me into manga. But this short story collection is just okay. I mean, obviously, if you love Death Note, you're going to want to read these stories. So, you know, if you love Death Note, you probably already picked this up. But just for like a casual Death Note fan, this one can pretty easily be skipped. There's nothing too must read in here. But yeah, you know, just kind of some short stories telling some stuff that happens after Death Note, some kind of alternate reality stories and stuff like that. So read through that. Okay, we have another autobiographical manga. We have My Brain is Different, Stories of ADHD and Other Developmental Disorders. This one was fine. It was definitely informative, but it was just kind of a standard explaining ADHD. There wasn't really too much interesting story-wise in it. It's basically each chapter is about a different person and kind of what their specific diagnosis is. And so, yeah, so I mean, I found it's definitely informative if you're looking to learn more about ADHD, but if it's, you know, you're looking for a unique story or anything like that, this is probably not going to be for you. Then we have Let's Go Karaoke. I kind of went into this blind. I picked this up at Barnes & Noble. I didn't know too much about it. I kind of assumed it was some sort of BL story, but it's really not. It's kind of about this gangster guy who randomly kind of meets this kid who, you know, he wants him to teach him how to sing. And so they basically like go to this karaoke bar constantly and kind of do some singing practice with him. So, you know, not the best story. I didn't really connect with it that much. I thought it was okay. It is a one-shot. The artwork is a little different, but it does its job. I mean, like I said, I found it. I thought it was fine. I didn't love it or hate it. I thought it was just a fine series. I'll probably keep it in my collection. Same thing with this book. We have Sadekochan and Sadekochan. This is basically the character from The Ring, and this is a kind of more comedic take on that character, and it is kind of like a more slice of life. This is like a little girl version of her meeting with the version from The Ring. And so as you can see here, they meet up with this boy. They kind of help him out with his stuff. I mean, it's kind of just each chapter is kind of its own little short story. Cute. I didn't, nothing spectacular. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. So if you love The Ring or like kind of comedy, kind of horror series, go ahead and check that out. I read the final volume of Alice in Kyoto Forest. This is a short 2-volume series. I picked this up. I thought the artwork looked cute on the covers, and it continues. The artwork is cute in the series, but the story is just okay. It kind of just ends. It doesn't really. It kind of feels like it was planning on being a long-running series, and then they had to really wrap it up quickly because it got canceled or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of, obviously it's a takeoff Alice in Wonderland. But yeah, if you want to give it a shot, it's, like I said, it's only a short 2-volume series. But I wasn't too blown away by it, other than the cute artwork. And then lastly of these 3-star series, I read Utsubora, the Story of a Novelist. This is the first thing I've read by this creator, Asumiko Nakamura. This is the same creator of White Rose and Bloom and some other series that I own and want to start reading. I really like her art style. The art is great in this book, but the story I just thought was okay. It is a mystery series, and it's kind of hard to tell what happens. You kind of have to, it's one of those ones where it doesn't wrap everything up easily for you to figure out. So I enjoyed it, but it's, I'm going to assume I'm going to enjoy her other work more. But I'm still going to keep it in my collection in case, maybe if I don't like her other work, then I'll get rid of it. But I'm expecting that I'm going to like some of her other stuff, judging by what I've heard other people talk about. Okay, so next we're going to get to the stuff I gave 2 stars to and lower. So most of the stuff I have dropped or I'm getting rid of. And I'm going to start with a series that I've already actually unhauled and gotten rid of. And that is a beloved series. That is Chainsaw Man. I read through volumes 1 through 11 in the last month. And I kind of picked it up. I could kind of tell it wasn't going to be for me. And I picked it up anyways because of how well loved it is. And it exactly was what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't really for me. It's kind of a story that kind of feels like it's written for junior high kids. And it kind of feels like it's written by a junior high kid. Very, kind of childish kind of storytelling. The action scenes I didn't find very good. The character designs were probably the best part about it, but then it kind of gets convoluted and throwing too much near the end of it. The first few volumes I gave 3 stars to, and then once it got to the back half, I started giving it 2 stars. And I know there's going to be a follow-up to it, kind of a part 2, but I have zero interest in continuing with it, so I went ahead and got rid of that. Some other 2-star books that I got, or that I read through. We have I Am a Cat, the manga edition. This one here is a one-shot, and I couldn't even finish it. I love cats, so that's kind of why I picked this up. The cat is kind of in the background. The cat is not really the kind of focus of the story. It's a lot of boring storytelling. I just really, like I said, I couldn't even finish this one. I really tried to force myself to finish this, and it's based on like a classic book. So this is the manga version of that, and the artwork is fine, but I just didn't have any interest in the story at all. I couldn't, even with it being not a long book, I just couldn't make my way through it. So I will definitely be getting rid of this one. Another short 1-volume series. We have Henkai Pan. This is by Eldo Yoshimizu. And this one here, this is by the same creator of Ryoko. And I have that also, but I haven't read it yet. This is the first thing that I've read by this creator. And yeah, other than the artwork, the story was not great. I found the artwork to be really good. That's kind of why I gave it 2 stars. But as you can see here, some really nice artwork. But the story is just, I didn't really connect with it at all. It's kind of about guardians and kind of trying to save the earth and them fighting between each other. But yeah, just didn't really do too much for me. I'm gonna hold on to this one until I read his other series and see if I enjoy that. But yeah, otherwise, this one can be easily skipped. And then lastly, I read through a shorter 3-volume series. I usually don't try to speak badly about, you know, manga. I try to stay positive, but this is one of the worst manga series that I've ever read, and this was Imperfect Girl. I read through all 3 volumes of this. The story is awful, the characters are stupid, and the artwork is awful. So just a combination of really bad. I actually made it through all 3 volumes just because I wanted to. It was so dumb that I kind of wanted to see where it went. But yeah, I just really dislike this series. Yeah, the paneling on some of these pages are just bad. It's really hard to even, like, this is just ugly, really ugly artwork and kind of really bad panel design. But I made it through all 3 of these, and I will not be keeping these, so these will be getting sold. But yeah, so that was everything, you know, ending off with what I didn't enjoy. It's very rare, like kind of my average score of manga is 3 to 4 stars. It's very rare that I give something 1 or 2 stars. So, you know, most months I don't really have something that I disliked like I did in Perfect Girl. But yeah, definitely check out the stuff I recommend at the start. And this is just my opinion. So obviously, you know, there's lots of people that probably, I mean, Imperfect Girl has fairly good reviews on Goodreads. So some people obviously love this series. Obviously, there's people that love Chainsaw Man. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate for that. But yeah, just that type of kind of standard. I basically felt the same way about Jujutsu Kaisen. Your standard action series, those really don't do anything for me, especially if they don't have anything extra interesting about them, like the characters or anything like that. Like, I just can't really, that's not my type of manga. Maybe if I was, you know, a teenager, those would be, you know, I would love those, but yeah, not really my thing. But yeah, that was it. That's everything I read in July and August. Quite a lot, you know, probably in the 70 volume range, considering I read 31 volumes of Slam Dunk, you know, All of Rose of Versailles, Chainsaw Man. So go ahead and let me know in the comments if you have anything you want to talk about, anything you have any more questions about that I didn't go into specific details on. Go ahead and let me know, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thank you.